Hey everyone, I'm Justin Janowski, and welcome to the Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches podcast. I remember starting my Christian coaching business in December of 2018 and just hoping to make it. I remember being nervous and tossing and turning and having some self-doubt and feeling kind of overwhelmed. Fortunately, I had some great mentorship, and God led me through that season and to things beyond what I could have imagined. I collected over $250,000 in revenue that first year in business, and I've been able to have a successful and sustainable business ever since. That's what this podcast is about, helping you craft and create your most ideal business with a great business plan, great business strategy, and with a loving sales strategy. Thank you for tuning into the episode today, where I want to talk about internal and external pain. Specifically, I want to talk about the internal and external pain of your prospects. If you are a coach, one of the most important things you could do is tune into your most ideal client. Now, this means that you need to know who your most ideal client is. If you haven't yet, go back and listen to podcast episodes that we have about crafting your ideal mission statement or finding your target audience. It's critically important that you know who your most ideal client is. For us, it's a Christian coach. Typically, they're between $0 and $100,000 in annual revenue in their coaching business, and they're trying to build something sustainable. They've got a big heart for service, but they're struggling with sales. They're struggling with the business side of things. And so a great exercise that my team and I have gone through multiple times and is really front of mind right now that you need to go through for your business is to ask ourselves the question. Two questions, really. What is the biggest internal challenge or internal pain that my prospects have, or the biggest internal problem that they're facing? So if I get into the head of the Christian coach, which is easy to do because I'm a Christian coach who was once new, and I start asking the question, what are they thinking? What are the mental blocks that are holding them back? And I start to journal on that. I start to consider that. I start to think about the different Christian coaches I know and the ones I've worked with. And I create a comprehensive list. Then the goal is to narrow it to the most pervasive challenges, problems, or pains that my ideal client is facing internally. I know that for me, so many of the Christian coaches I work with are facing that same internal battle that I was facing as a new coach, which is that they're wondering whether or not they're good enough. They're wondering whether or not they're cut out for this. They're wondering whether or not they can do it. And that fear, that self-doubt, that anxiety about whether or not they're good enough has held many of them back and gotten many of my clients to just feel stuck at the starting line. The other internal battle that they might be facing is stories about what sales is, or stories about money that are disempowering, that say money is evil and the root of all evil, and sales is greedy and pushy and manipulative and bad. And if my clients are facing the internal question of whether or not it's okay to earn money, and they're facing the internal challenge of sales feeling like this pushy, negative, greedy, bad thing, those are going to create mental blocks and resistance to their success. If you're my ideal client, you might relate to some of those internal stories or battles of whether or not I'm good enough, whether or not sales can be good and honest and loving, and whether or not making money through the work you're called to do is okay. Now, I'm not going to solve those problems on today's podcast episode, but ultimately, I want you to know that throughout the course of this podcast and throughout the course of all business at Faith to Influence, I am thinking about how can I help people solve those problems? And it helps me market to my ideal client. It helps me craft my content that I want to share in this podcast and in other places because I'm aware of those problems. It helps me craft the offers that we're going to make to our clients and check them against whether or not they help solve the internal problems my clients are facing. And this is something that we're really top of mind on in terms of building out our webinars or master classes or trainings, because we know we're going to attract our most ideal client and make it easier for them to say yes and work with us so that we can solve bigger problems if we begin to solve some of those problems in our free content and free trainings. So pause here for a moment. Feel free to literally click pause on the podcast and start to think about and journal out what is your most ideal client's biggest internal problem, block, or pain that they're facing right now that's causing resistance to them achieving their most ideal outcomes and goals. Then the second question is, what is the biggest external problem or pain or challenge that your clients are facing. So internal is something that's happening in their own mind. External is something that's happening outside of them. It's a real problem that they're facing when they're trying to achieve their goals. And so if you're thinking about like a health and fitness coach, the internal problem might be old stories they have about nutrition, or old stories they have about their capacity to get results. Maybe they've made up stories that like their metabolism, their heredity, like they can't do it, or they've got like self-doubt and like negative patterns around language, and they beat themselves up when they make a mistake, and then they feel like it's all or nothing, right? There's these internal things. But then externally, what are the problems that your clients are facing if you're a health and fitness coach? Well, externally, maybe they're facing challenges in their relationships, right? There's an external problem with the way other people are eating inside their home. Or there's an external problem with social engagements with their friends or their family or their communities, where they happen to be going to places where people are eating a certain way, or consuming alcohol and different things like that. Or maybe they're staying up late because they've got a spouse or friends who like to stay up late, and so they're not getting enough sleep. And all these things are snowballing external factors that are limiting the success of your clients. Or maybe your most ideal client is in a place physically, if you're a health and fitness coach, where exercise feels really daunting and really scary, really difficult because of the physical circumstances that they're currently in. And so that actually creates then an internal challenge, right? I'm giving this example for you to, though, think about it from your business standpoint. When I think about the external problems I was facing as a new coach, I shared it in the podcast introduction today. It was really that I felt so overwhelmed by the strategies that people online were saying I needed to use to have an effective coaching business. There were so many things. And I felt like, man, how can I build a funnel and have a podcast and write a book and have a YouTube channel and be on Instagram and be on Facebook and be on LinkedIn and be sending direct messaging and be writing really interesting, intriguing posts and blogs, and be doing like short form videos and be doing long form videos and be doing the sales operations, the marketing operations, the client service, the technology, all the different things, right? Webinars and challenges. I was hearing all these things, ads online, and I was like, man, it's overwhelming. How can any one person do all of that? And I know that that was my experience, and it's also the experience of my clients right now. Externally, they feel like it's too much to try to do business the way the world is telling them to do it. It feels too heavy. It feels too overwhelming. They don't know what to do next, and they're spending their time on the wrong strategies because they're hearing too many voices, among other things, right? But this is some of the external challenge that my most ideal client is facing. They're overwhelmed, and they don't know yet that they can do it a simpler way, that they can say no to so many of those strategies and find a simpler way forward. And so part of my voice in the marketplace is to tell them that there's another way. It's to tell them that that overwhelming external problem that they've been facing doesn't have to be their reality, that we can overcome that we can come up with a simpler, easier strategy and way forward. Knowing though what my clients are facing externally and what makes things difficult for them, and then like they're also in an external world where sales oftentimes has been in other people's hands manipulative, greedy, and bad, where people have been dishonest in their marketing and they're hearing these ideas that are dishonest or don't feel quite right or don't have full integrity. And so of course they're battling the culture of business in the marketplace while trying to maintain their faith and honor their family and honor their clients. And so I want to stand for the voice that we can, or I want to be the voice standing for the reality that we can do it in a simpler way and also maintain our integrity and be honest and treat people well while having success in sales. That doesn't have to be one or the other. Feel free to pause here for a moment once again and consider for your business, for your ideal clients, what are the external problems that they're facing that feel like very real blocks to their success in achieving their goals? Make that list, narrow it to the most important key areas that they're struggling against right now. And then once again, your marketing, your offers, your content, your training, your coaching, everything that you do should be designed to help your most ideal clients solve their biggest internal and external problems. Because when we help them solve their biggest internal and external problems, then the path becomes easy and light for them to achieve their goals. This is ultimately why we're in business in the first place. And so it's just a reminder to tune into the mind and the heart of your ideal client, the experience of your ideal client, and ask these questions once again so that we can find compelling language to attract our most ideal client and to invite them to a solution that can solve those problems so that they can be free to fulfill what God's called them to achieve their goals, to accomplish their dreams, to get unstuck, and to start doing what they were meant to do. I hope this has been helpful. If you would like to receive more support from our team, text PLAN to the number 33777. Text PLAN to 33777. Do this now on your phone. And when you text PLAN to 33777, two things are going to happen. One, we're going to send you a little survey that's going to help you craft the outline of your Christian coach and business plan. We're going to send that to you via email. We'll also offer you a free coaching call with someone on our team who can talk to you specifically about where you're at in your business, where you're going, and help you identify the problems you need to solve to get there. I'd love to support you in that way. Thank you for listening to the show, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. God bless you all.